Welcome to Varsity Nutrition. I'm Derek Marks, and in this episode, we're going to talk about what to eat. The goals here are to really get a bit of an understanding of what foods are best to choose and then, of course, consume. Our objectives throughout this discussion involve having this best option mindset, what actually are the best options, and then finally some grocery shopping tips to help you find that food. So this best option mindset. Ultimately, you're not always going to have control of the foods that you eat, and you're not always going to have the best choices. We can identify the perfect list of foods, but if they're not available to you, what do? That's where this best option mindset comes into play. If the best option isn't available, just make the best choice from what you do have available. And this happens quite often, whether it's campus dining, eating out at restaurants, you're traveling and you have to stop off at a gas station or whatever. Just make do with what you have. Ultimately, then, it is up to you to be prepared, and preparation is a key to make sure that you do have the best options available to you as often as possible. So some of the preparation tips include grocery shopping on a regular basis. Make a grocery list, stick to the list, and do it frequently. That way you don't run out of food unexpectedly and then have to scramble for something that you may not find ideal. Meal prep. A lot of you athletes are really busy during the week or at other times and don't have time to make meals throughout the day. And then you get into situations where you can't find that best food. Preparing meals ahead of time and bringing those foods with you eliminate that stress of having to scramble and find a food that maybe isn't optimal to eat. Packable foods. And with packable foods, I mean finding snacks and sort of emergency foods that are better than most foods that you find in an actual food emergency, right? So instead of pulling over to the gas station and getting some sort of random muffin or whatever it is, you've brought snacks with you, and you always have snacks with you. Put them in your book bag, have them in your gym bag, in your training bag, wherever you're going, even in your car, right? Having those packable foods available minimizes the chances of you having to choose foods that aren't optimal. And then ultimately, time management. By time management, it's about thinking about food a little bit more often and making sure that you are dedicating time to be prepared and do all those things, all those bulleted items above on this list. So portion out a little bit of your schedule to think about food and be prepared. That way, your best option mindset will actually give you the best option. All right, so the what to eat conversation. So clearly not enough time. Really, it would take a whole semester, right, to cover every different food option and food choice. So it is sort of an approach, a general approach to food and your food choices. And the simplicity approach or the real food approach tends to work best, right? And so different people define real food in different ways. And you can really look at the graphic just above me and be like, yeah, those are all real foods. Those are foods basically in their most natural state. They haven't been ultra processed. They haven't been manipulated or altered in any way. That's real food, right? And so the closer we can get to choosing those types of foods as frequently as possible, the better our diet's going to be and the better nourished we're going to be. So some of the terms that we use to describe real food would be, natural, fresh, organic, in season, raw. Doesn't mean you have to eat it raw, it just means you obtain it raw and then cook it, right? It's an ingredient. And then really approaching foods like, let's go for the minimally processed food. So even unprocessed. And again, everything above me right there, pretty much unprocessed, right? And then finally, home or fresh cooked is a really good way to complement the real food choices that you make, right? Restaurants will cook with real food. Sure, campus dining does as well occasionally. But really, if you are buying this type of real food and then cooking it for yourself, that is the ideal goal with your nutritional habits. So finding these foods is sometimes simple and sometimes not so simple. Firstly, hopefully you have access to a good grocery store. For those of you that rely on campus dining exclusively, your hands are tied a bit and you have to rely on what campus dining provides you. That being said, that best option mindset will serve you well. But for those of you that grocery shop, my first recommendation is create your own grocery list. And I'm not going to provide you one here with details. There's lots of sources out there on the internet that make recommendations for good grocery lists. Ultimately, it's very personalized. What works for you? What can you afford? What do you like? and create it on a device that you maybe bring with you to the grocery store, right? So I have a lot of athletes that put it on a list on their phone, and that way they always have the same grocery list. They follow that same grocery list, and then they make upgrades week to week. It's like, oh yeah, I found this food, and so I'm substituting this protein food for that protein food because that one worked better for whatever reason. So create your own list, use it, and upgrade it, refine it, modify it as time goes on, and it will get better and better for you. So my recommendations for groceries, and I'd like to personally do them by macronutrient. I know some people like to do their grocery list by meal. Some people like to do their grocery list by the way the grocery store is organized. Hey, I get the fruit and veggie section first, so that's going to go first on my list. However you want to separate your list or organize your list, that's up to you. But in terms of proteins, if we're talking about real protein sources, your eggs, phenomenal, right? Find the healthy eggs, the closest to nature, which basically means these are chickens that were raised well, happy chickens, right? Fish, definitely wild fish. Doesn't matter what's been done to it. Canned, frozen, or fresh is still fine. Any of these meat products, if we're looking for real meat or real animal products, those need to be healthy animals. They need to be raised in a healthy way, right? And that's sometimes harder to find and sometimes more expensive. But I think if you do a little bit of work to find it, it's definitely worth the effort. Your dairy products, your cottage cheese, plain Greek yogurt, those are all, of course, animal products, and they all can be good quality proteins. On the plant-based side, tofu, nuts, and beans. Find the best version of those that you can. Typically, organic is ensuring that they haven't been at least treated with certain chemicals through the process of being grown. In terms of carbohydrates, keep it as simple as possible, right? And carbohydrates are probably the most manipulated foods that we find in the grocery store. People like to do all sorts of things to carbohydrate-based foods. So the closer to nature, the better. So plain oatmeal, rice, quinoa, just in their natural grain form. Potatoes are great starchy vegetables. Your processed grains, so we start getting into, processed wheat. Breads, tortillas, pastas, there's good options out there. Look for the ones with the fewest ingredients on them and ingredients that you understand. Like you can look at the ingredients list and be like, yeah, okay, those are all products in that bread that are things that I know what they are, right? Not some chemicals. When it comes to fruits, fresh or frozen, it actually doesn't really matter. As long as it's just fruit, totally fine. When it comes to fats, in terms of real fat foods, we're going to find our best fats from in natural form in the foods that we eat. So things like avocados, nuts, and even the fats in quality meats and dairy. Those are good. If they're coming from good, healthy food sources, those are going to be healthy fats. In terms of cooking oils, I like to choose olive oil, coconut oil, or ghee, and ghee is just clarified butter. So if you don't want to go for ghee specifically, you can cook with good quality butter. All those things work from the real fat sort of perspective. Grocery shopping tips. When you go to the grocery store, how do you maximize your grocery shopping experience? Well, there's a couple of tips here that are definitely worth considering next time you go. First rule, and we can't ignore it, is consider your budget. Hands down, please look at your budget first and then organize your grocery shopping distribution of foods based on that budget. I have athletes that buy one or two really expensive things because they like them. That leaves no money left over for all the other good stuff. So start with your budget. Second tip is use your grocery list, right? You're making a grocery list, stick to it. Try not to stray from it. You left the house with the grocery list. It's probably on your phone or whatever. If you want to do it on paper, whatever, stick to it. Don't allow yourself to get influenced by all the colorful and fancy advertised foods and packaged foods in the grocery store. When you can, buy in bulk. Typically, when products are sold in bulk, they're not packaged. They tend to be a lot cheaper per unit, right? So a pound of whatever is typically, in bulk is typically cheaper than a pound of that product when it's been packaged in a box and all that. So also look for sale items. Most grocery stores, especially bigger ones, they'll always have one version of a product on sale at any given time. Let's say marinara sauce or pasta sauce, right? Maybe week to week, it's a different version of pasta sauce, a different manufacturer, but find the one that's on sale. Look at the label. If it's legit, go for it, right? You might save some money in that process. Comparing foods that you're choosing by looking at the labels and prices can go a long way in stretching your dollar and maximizing your nutrition. So really look at your foods carefully, inform yourself about what you're eating, and don't get sucked into just the colorful, bright advertising kind of foods. And then finally, consider frozen fruits and veggies. And a lot of people say, frozen fruits and veggies aren't as good as the fresh stuff that you find in the produce section. That's not necessarily true. And so frozen fruits and veggies, they're typically, not always, but typically picked ripe on the vine. So if you allow a fruit or a vegetable to ripen on the vine, they're going to have a greater nutritional quality, right? There's going to be more nutrients in that product compared to a fruit or vegetable that was picked before it's ripe. In the fruit and vegetable section, the fresh fruits and veggies, they're typically picked before they're ripe, and they're allowed to ripen when they're in storage and in transport to get to the grocery store. So ultimately, the frozen fruits and veggies may have better nutritional quality, so more vitamins and minerals in them compared to the ones that are fresh. Secondly, they are sometimes cheaper. And thirdly, they keep a lot longer, right? Keeping them frozen in your freezer, they can last a lot longer than the fresh ones that will spoil relatively quickly. So consider that if it's a good option for you. It's not a bad idea. It's still real fruits and vegetables. That's it for this episode. We'll see you next time.